Hey everyone, this is Steve Summer, and I'm in Roseville, Minnesota. And I was recently ripped off by McQuillan Bros Plumbing in St. Paul, Minnesota, otherwise known as McQuillan Home Services. And I just wanted to share my story with you here quickly. I'm also going to write up all of the details, much more detail than I'll put in this video, and I'll put the link to that blog entry in the description of this video. You can go there and see all the documents and everything that goes with this. This is my actual boiler right here that they worked on. And I really want to cover two things that happened when they came and worked on my boiler. The first is they didn't actually fix the boiler. So that was the major problem. And they price gouged me in the process. So that's not technically illegal in Minnesota, but it certainly isn't a trust building customer first business model. And that's why I want to show you every aspect of what happened here. So a little background: on November 21st of this year, so just not that long ago, my boiler failed in what's called a lockout. And what that means is the controller board on the boiler sensed that something was wrong and it shut it down. And it puts out a diagnostic code. So the first thing I want to do is show you what that diagnostic code looks like. So let me walk you real quick through what the lockout looks like on this boiler. And the first thing it does after the T-stat is it checks the limits. And now the damper is starting to open, so that's an automatic thing. And when that damper's done, it's going to try to light the flame to heat the boiler up. And you heard that, and it failed. And now it's going to flash a light 6 times, then there'll be a pause, and then it'll flash 6 times again, and a pause, and then it'll flash 6 times again. And now that you've seen that, I want to talk about what happened when they showed up. So they came into the house, basically with me in an emergency situation. My boiler was failing. It was doing this lockout thing. It's the end of November. It's cold in Minnesota. You're on a time clock. Eventually your house could freeze up, pipes could burst, all that kind of bad stuff. So unfortunately, this was kind of a critical situation. So when they first showed up, they said, well, we have to do an initial assessment. So they went and did an initial assessment. And when they came back, they said that they couldn't figure out what the problem was, and they were going to have to do a deeper analysis, and that was going to cost me additional money. At this point, that should have been a red flag for me, because I knew the thing was putting off a diagnosis code, but what do I know? I'm not a boiler expert. I'm not a plumber. I'd assume these guys are experts. They know what they're doing. And if they say they're not sure what the problem is, then maybe the problem's more complicated than I think it is. So I say, all right, go ahead. But I want to stop right here, and I'm going to actually show you the actual solution to the problem before I even go any further, because I think that's important. So it turns out I learned through this process that Will McLean, here, the manufacturer of this boiler, actually provides a free mobile app that you can get on Google or Apple. It's free, so you can click on this Pro Tools app, and I'm going to continue as guest here, and we're going to go to product info and troubleshooting. We'll click I acknowledge on the warnings. And now it's going to ask me what type of boiler I have. And again, if you look right here, you'll see it's a CGA boiler. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And then it's going to ask me for the series. And then it's going to allow me to do troubleshooting for this particular boiler. So I'm going to click on the technical and troubleshooting here. And the second option down there is fault message troubleshooting. So we got a fault message with the 6 flashes. And so now it's going to give me a bunch of options for how are those lights flashing, so I can look that up. And the second option down here is the power light flashing with the hard lockout. So let's go take a look at that. And if I zoom in right here in the middle, you'll see flash code 6. And if I scroll over, that's an internal fault gas valve circuit. So now you're probably wondering, well, what did they do? So that's a really good question. I'm going to walk you through what they did based on the invoice. So they basically replaced 3 parts and gave what's called a Fernox treatment, and I'll talk about those here one at a time. First, look at the Fernox treatment. So on the boiler here, you'll see right there, there's a drain. And you can buy this Fernox stuff at Home Depot. It's about $70. You get 35 bucks for a can of cleaner and 35 bucks for a can of protectant. The cans come with an adapter that just screws right onto that drain. You open the drain up and you empty the can into the system, and that's pretty much it. So it's $70 in parts and then that process to do that. So how much did they charge me to do that? They charged me $2,782.52 to do that. So now let's talk about the aquastat, or the thermostat. So this is a part that looks like this. Here's a picture of it. It costs $78 retail. And the process for replacing this is to disconnect the electrical connection at the end, unscrew it, screw in the new one, and replace the electrical connection. Probably a 5 to 10 minute process at best. So what did they charge me to do this? They charged me $2,266.97 to replace that $78 part. Now let's take a look at the flame rollout safety switch. So the flame rollout safety switch, here's a picture of that part. It's a $48 part retail. To replace it, you take out one screw and you disconnect the two electrical connections on it, and you just simply replace it and plug in the electrical connections again. How much did they charge me for that? $591.91. Lastly, we have the circulating pump. That circulating pump is located right here on the thing. It's just off the edge of the screen. There's like 4 bolts you got to take out and you can replace the pump. Here's the pump. It's a $129 part. This is exactly the same pump that they put in. Standard circulating pump. That one may have taken a little bit of work, but they charged me $1,720.74 to replace that $129 part. Let's do a quick summary here. If we add all of that up, that's $6,662.14. They replaced 3 parts and put Fernox in. The total part cost for this retail, if I looked up the parts, was approximately $318, leaving a balance, I guess, for labor of roughly $6,300. And if you figure that out for the 5 hours that they were here, they charged me approximately $1,200 an hour to work on my boiler, and they didn't even fix it. So just to summarize here, I got ripped off by McQuillan Bros Plumbing and Heating really badly. They didn't fix my boiler, and they replaced a few basic parts and charged me an insane amount of money and let me believe that my boiler was repaired when in fact it was not. If you follow my blog that's linked in the description here, I'll keep putting entries in as things happen. Hopefully this will get resolved, but I'm not entirely confident. We'll see what happens. But, you know, they came in and they said, you know, we can't see what the problem is. They couldn't diagnose it. And then they basically started grooming me. So they started telling me this was going to be really expensive. And they were telling me that before they even told me what the problem was. In fact, they never told me what the problem was. And of course, it failed again after they left with the same lockout code, leaving me scrambling to find another plumber to actually come in and fix it. And the subsequent plumber that I had come in was the one that showed me the Will McLean mobile app. He actually called Will McLean tech support to confirm what the issue was, replaced the part, and I haven't had an issue with my boiler since. So, you know, as a final note, I would say, if you're considering using McQuillan Brothers for your plumbing needs, don't. Especially if you're in an emergency situation like I was, you have a giant target on your back. So hope you all have a great day. Learn from this, and if you follow the blog, I'll be putting updates in there on how this ends up getting resolved if it does. Thanks for watching. Bye.